technical.
We are back. We had a slight technical problem. Keish was on set here. Kevin, I know you're accustomed to working with professionals, and we of course are as well. And in any event, we just had a slight issue there with Keish, but you handle it like a pro as you are.
I just sat here, Chip.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said for just sitting there saying nothing. I mean, you can't teach that sometimes. So tell our viewers a little about yourself, if you would.
Okay. I was born in Peru, Indiana.
Peru, Indiana.
Which is about 70 miles north of Indianapolis. It's right on the Wabash River. And in fact, all through my entire life, except for a very short time when my parents took me to Iowa to live when I was just like 4 or 5, I've never lived more than 5 miles from the Wabash River.
Is that right?
Yeah. I went to school at Vincennes, and that's close to the river.
Sure.
And I moved from Peru down here, but I'm from Peru, Indiana. Went to Peru High School.
Home of the
Tigers.
Peru Tigers. There we go.
Yep. And Kyle Macy was a great basketball star.
Absolutely, yeah.
So in 1978,
how did he matriculate out of the state of Indiana to go? But he went down to Kentucky.
he went to Kentucky.
Yes,
yeah,
that's what I thought.
I think his mom had something to do with it.
All
Frankly.
right. Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't follow sports a lot.
Yeah.
Played in the band.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What'd you play?
Trumpet?
Trumpet? Can you still play?
No.
Well, can you play the ukulele?
Maybe a little bit, not
Really?
tonight. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we might have to work on that. I mean,
Yeah.
I bet you could still play. You're probably holding out on us on that.
I don't know. My trumpet is up in my office at home, and it's I haven't touched it in years.
What would your favorite song have been playing the trumpet
Oh gosh.
back in the day?
Any of the circus music.
Really?
Yeah, because I played in the circus band
Really?
also.
Is that a thing? The circus band.
Yeah, see, Peru every year has a circus.
So so the high school has a circus band.
No, the community, the
community has it.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that.
What it is back in the old days when the circuses would tour the country and so on, there are a lot of railroad hubs at Peru, and so several of the circuses, like the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus and part of the Cole Brothers Circus and so on, they had their winter quarters in Peru. And so that's when they would paint the wagons and train the animals and things. And when the circuses started to fade out, a lot of the old performers retired there. So back in about 1960, they said, we've got a great talent here. We really have something going on. And so they said, let's put on a show. And so they got kids, like youngsters from the area, from Miami County, and trained them how to do the trampolines and trapeze and all of these great juggling and all, tumbling, all of these great circus things. And they've been doing a circus every year in July since 1960.
Is that right?
Yeah, and there was a band. We have a band, and I played in the band, all this great circus music.
Well, that's an interesting story. So, had you ever considered the juggling or the trampoline or none of that?
No. I'm not coordinated.
No. You could have tried that.
No, I just stayed in the band.
Some people have accused me when they see me with this that I'm with the circus. When they see me with this
I like
blazer,
that.
do you like it?
I would wear something.
It's the brand of the chat with the chair. So when they
like
see this, they know. But sometimes the circus. So how long were you part of the circus band?
From high school, then I would go back out of college and I would play there until I moved down here.
Is that right?
Yeah, so from about 1972, 72 to 78 when I moved here.
So I'm sure you can still pick that instrument and play.
I don't think
What do you
so.
think we could put together? We can get a few other guys. We'll get this.
Ukulele. Yeah.
We had a couple other guys in with instruments that have been other guests.
All
and
right.
we can actually have it called the Circus Band. And it would be perfect.
I'm willing to give it a try.
It's catchy. I mean, the Circus Band.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking for things to go remote at different times. This would be another idea.
Okay.
We can have they have these garage bands. And actually, this is going to lead in with one of our other guests, but we'll go out to the She Shed and be a She Shed band instead of a garage band.
Okay.
Is that a
That's
thing?
all right. I saw pictures of the she shed, by the way.
Is that right?
Oh,
Is it nice?
great. Oh, yeah.
Well, we're going to get into that she shed here in a little bit, but I don't want to get off topic with you. Not that I haven't already done that, but so what was it that drew you down to Vigo County then?
When I went to college at Vincennes.
Home of the
Um,
Trailblazers.
oh, yeah, right.
All right, we
right.
got to.
Okay.
You should know that.
I should
mean,
know that.
This was you got to know this.
I meant to,
You knew that. You just
Yeah,
were
I
you were
forgot.
you were just
Yeah,
getting me to.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had an instructor down there who, at Vincennes, who had worked at Channel 10. And I went to Vincennes, and my goal, initially I didn't set out to be a TV weatherman. I wanted to be a top 40 disc jockey. I
Is that
wanted
right?
to be, oh yeah, I wanted to be in Chicago doing mornings at like WLS or one of these big stations.
Like I say,
and
you
so
got a
on.
great voice. I mean,
Well, thanks.
you got a much better voice than Casey Kasem. I just want to say
Oh,
that.
bless
So
your
you
heart,
could have
thanks.
been you could have absolutely been that guy, the top
Oh.
40. You know, don't you,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been
Well,
told that several times.
I don't know. I worked on it. You know, I worked on the voice. I had a little radio station when I was a kid. When I was 6 years old. This is a backstory. When I was not 6, I was in 6th grade. I was in school with a kid, and his mom worked at the radio station in Peru. And so he said, "You want to go out to see the station?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And so I went out there because I'd been listening anyhow, and I saw the station with all the knobs and all the everything, you know, all the electronics and equipment and stuff. And I thought, that's it. And I was hit at 6th grade
Really?
that I wanted to do broadcasting. And so I went home that night and built a little radio station in my basement. And I get the newspaper and I read on the microphone, like just little news clips and plate records
right?
and all that. Yeah. And so that was going to be my thing. I was going to go do radio.
Well, you know, the problem was, it's, you know, like a lot of people tell me that I've got a face for radio. You see, the problem is that you, on the other hand, you're this big, strapping, good-looking guy, so naturally, television was going to snatch you up. They weren't going to
Well-
let you just go to radio. I mean, that's the problem. Kevin.
Well, yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I don't know about that. I landed in television after, because radio kind of fizzled out, really. You know, I down here I worked at WBOW,
Okay.
and I was going to go do mornings at PFR, which is
Okay.
a rock station
Sure.
here. Everybody loved PFR, and I was going to go to work there, and PFR, which was owned by a different company, said, "We'll hire you," but BOW said, "No, you know you have this contract." Well, it was a little piece of paper outside.
Those legal things, I mean, they just
Yeah.
get in the way.
Yeah. At any rate, I was without a job.
Really?
I was without a job, and so I ran into a guy named Rod Garvin.
Great
who said,
guy.
yeah, who said, "You know, we're looking for a promotions manager at Channel 10." And I said, "Well, okay," because I'd been writing some commercials and doing some things and so on. So I went to work at Channel 10. The fellow who was
And you were hired then as promotion guy.
promotion, yeah.
All right.
But I did some commercials and so on. But there was a guy who was doing weather who was about my stature, about
10.
10.
6 foot, yeah.
Five, yeah.
Give an inch to, yeah.
Maybe 5'3".
Something like that.
But he got in trouble, and they needed somebody to do the noon show, the midday show at Channel 10.
Like that day, or I mean, just in.
It was soon. It was
Wow.
like within a day or two.
Okay.
He was out. He
All
was
right,
gone.
gone.
And they said, "Kevin, can you do it?" And I said, "I guess." And so the rest is history.
It's history.
Yeah, I started doing the noon show in July of '84, and then in November of '85, I started doing nighttime weather.
So you mean when Rod runs around and tells everybody that he handpicked you to do the weather, he just fell into you? Is this now
I
the
just
real
kind of
truth?
stumbled into it. Actually,
I mean,
yeah.
this guy looks like a genius, and you just fell into you.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Wow.
I was gonna leave. I was gonna go to a big station and wherever, and do weather. And I really liked Terre Haute. I was married. I had a daughter. You know, Christine was born, and we decided to stay. Because when you're from Peru, Indiana, growing up in the country, Terre Haute's the big city,
Absolutely.
and it's big enough for me.
Well, you are, and so the rest, as you say, is history. You're a legend now.
Well,
Right? I mean, Hall of Famer. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no doubt about it. This guy, I mean, there's been some some great personalities that have been associating with the weather in Vigo County and Terre Haute history, but you got to be at the top of the list now. I mean, I know you're a humble guy about that, but you know, the thing about that is that notwithstanding the attributes you have, you know, with the voice and your wit and all those kinds of things, but I'm interested, where was it that you became so embedded with all the facts and the details about the weather and all that surrounds it, because you seem to have all those nuances down, unless you're just putting Patrice on about all that.
No. It was my grandmother.
Okay.
My grandma. I would be 5 or 6 years old, and my grandma and grandpa lived out in a little town called Deedsville, Indiana. Deedsville. It's in northern Miami County, about the size of Shirkyville, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that. Just a little bitty town. But my grandma always had a garden and everything, and she would say things. She would say, "Kevin, there's enough blue in the sky to patch a Dutchman's britches. It's not going to rain." She had all these sayings, and she had just all of these wonderful, you know, facts and things about weather. And I fell in love with weather at that time.
Is that right?
Yeah. And finally, when the TV thing came along, I was able to
put it all together.
Yeah.
That's great. And as far as I mean, obviously there's a lot has changed with regard to how you do all that. Does that require you to have ongoing education about that?
It does. In fact, I just got a note that I think on April the 20th, something like that, we're supposed to go to this big seminar and about how to upgrade weather and how to do it in the modern age and all that.
Of course, your grandmother's, those sayings stand the test of time, though. You know,
yeah,
really
most
do.
of them do.
Now, I was just curious, when she said that to Kevin, did she say, "Hey, Kevin," and then did she say that or no?
No. That was cooked up by a former news director.
Is that right?
Yeah, a guy named Jim LaBranch, who, I don't know, he saw me on the air and how I performed and behaved, and he said, "You know, your personality is such that we ought to just get people to say, 'Hey, Kevin,' and then you respond." But I never see them before they air.
Mm-hmm.
So the reaction that I have is just like a spontaneous reaction.
I'm curious, is your reaction like when you're going through the grocery store the same as it is? Because people got to drive you nuts with that. I mean, come on.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. There are two things. First of all, if like Baszler's or someplace, and I'm in one line or one row, and then the next row over, I hear this voice, just some random voice go, "Hey, Kevin, what's the weather?" It's like, or if somebody just says straight out, "Why don't you make it quit raining?" or "Why don't you make it, And,
well, we're going to talk about that, but you are a good sport, and that's what I said, because I've seen you in many places. I mean, you'll be the gas. "Hey, Kevin, what do you think about the gas prices?" And, "Hey, Kevin, what do you think about the price of strawberries?" I mean, whatever. And you're always a good sport. I mean, but it's got to get old. But I mean, you're always a good sport about it.
It's part of the job. It's part of the job, and I'm grateful that people do that.
Yeah.
I'm grateful people watch.
Well, it's quite a idea that he came up with. I don't know if you curse him some nights or because it just continues or not, but it's definitely become quite a catchphrase, though.
Yeah, it has.
I mean, for that. So that was a real clever news director you had there. You've had a few. I mean, there's one down the end of the table here, I know.
Yeah.
It was Sheets at the Bill Till. So of course, you also have had some real clever other ideas. Your cooking segment, right? You got a little backyard cookout.
Oh, the backyard barbecues.
Yes. What about those?
Those were great.
Yeah.
We did those with the Furniture Gallery, and those were wonderful. We would go to various people's backyards, people I'd never met before.
Right.
We'd just show up.
It was awesome.
Well, I mean, they knew we were coming.
Yeah, but you didn't know that.
but
did you ever go to the wrong yard? Is what I'm wondering. What are you doing here? Dear, Kevin's out in the flipping burgers out in the backyard. I mean, that ever happened or no?
No, I never did that. But we always just had a wonderful time, and when most of them were really good. There were a couple that were kind of shady. We were up in Paris, Illinois one time, and these people were fighting with their neighbors. And the one lady where we were at, she had her Tupperware all set up because she was a Tupperware lady, and she wanted to like promote her Tupperware. And the people next door were making noise and carrying on and so on. It was. We were kind of glad to get out of there.
So are you a big are you a big griller then? Is that
I like to.
somewhat
Yeah.
the-
I like to grill. Yeah.
So what's the favorite item on the Orpert grill, you think?
Steaks,
Okay.
hamburgers, pork, chicken.
Now I know I keep threatening the cooking show on this, but are we ever thinking about going back to these backyard ones?
I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to if we can get a good sponsor and get rid of like the plague, you know.
Yeah, we got to get rid of that. So we're working on that. But again, those are some neat things. So so with regard to your interest in the river, I guess that explains now, because obviously you speak a lot about the river now. That puts it all together that you've never strayed very far from the river. So what would be if you had to have a favorite one or two facts about Wabash River, what would you say those would be?
It's almost two different rivers because the river forms up around Fort Wayne and runs kind of to the southwest until it gets to Lafayette. Then it turns almost due south. The river, when it's running southwest between Fort Wayne and Lafayette, is a completely different river. To me, up at Peru, I don't recommend this to anybody, but you can walk across the river. I've walked across the river a number of times up around Peru. It's far more narrow. It's not quite as deep. It really is something. And then farther to the south, it widens up. It slows down.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about that. Having been born in Peru and raised there, and then coming here, do you find there's a difference between the way the river is embraced in community in Peru as opposed to how it is here in Terre Haute and Vigo County?
I think over the past maybe 10 years, 15 years, Peru has really started to embrace the river, kind of like we are here. We never had a park along the river like Fairbanks Park or so on, but there used to be railroads right along the river. Well, those all left. The C&O, they pulled up the tracks and so on, and so they had this property that they made a very nice river walk up around Peru. So I think you see that, not only up in Peru, but down here where people are trying to say, hey, let's make a nice river walk. Let's make it a place where we can have entertainment and festivals and those things.
So it looks like that's more of a push, obviously, now that's going to happen, but it really hasn't been probably as featured as much as you'd think since we're on the banks of the Wabash, would you say?
Yeah, I would say the river is just a treasure. It really is. I love to go I took my grandson a couple of weeks ago down to look at it.
I know a lot of times in your segments you definitely try to feature and focus and talk about the river, so I think that's great that you do that, and hopefully, as you said, with these projects underway and the river walk and you notice they've got that walkway that's well underway.
Yes.
Right now over in West Terre Haute. That's going to be a tremendous asset for the community. So I assume that at this point in your career, you're glad you made that decision to lose your job at PFR and go to WTHI.
Yeah, I will say, I'll tell you or anybody, I am such a fortunate person. I'm so grateful. And I tell kids when I go talk to them sometime, do what you love to do. I love doing what I do. I'm so fortunate. I feel like I'm doing what I was born to do. It just comes so naturally. It just comes so naturally. It's hard to describe. There are days that I don't want to go to work, but it just.
You are a natural. There's no doubt, and your joy for what you do just really comes through, and you've been very gracious, as I say, with people in the community, the young people, and it's really a good thing. Now, people always ask, though, they see you've got all these letters after your name. What does a lot of that stuff mean? I mean, what is all that?
Well, it's got the AMS, that's the American Meteorological Society. They have this little process you go through where you take a test and they watch some video of your performance, and then they look at it, and this is like from a panel of people based in Boston. They're not all in Boston, but they're based there. And they look at it and they say, well, this guy is trustworthy. He looks like we can, give him our seal of approval. And so that's what that means, I guess.
Well, that's a good thing.
That's what you're asking.
That's what I was asking about. That's a
Yeah.
good thing because have you ever had any run-ins with anybody that's upset with your weather forecast? I mean, I will say that
yeah.
you seem to be nailed all the time. I mean,
Well,
I
thanks.
think that probably the weathermen get as many jokes as the lawyers get. You can't predict yesterday's weather, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Oh,
it's.
yeah.
But we had some rainy skies out there this evening.
I got caught in it.
You got caught in it, so.
Okay.
But you predicted it, so I mean.
I did. I should know. I should know, shouldn't I?
You should have known. But and you're another guy too that know that you like the almanac. You'd like to refer to the almanac. That's
I wrote
probably
an almanac.
you wrote. That's right.
Yeah.
And that probably goes back to your young days, and I assume you got introduced to the Farmer's Almanac as
Yes.
a young man.
Yeah, yeah. They're so. When I talk to kids sometimes, if they're the right age, I say, learn to read an almanac. Because you can open it and you can see where the moon rise, the moon set, the sun rise and sunset, the moon phases, and all of these interesting little things. And I'm captivated by an almanac.
So what year did you write that almanac?
Last year. And it's
So-
for this year. I
For
should have
this
brought
year.
you one. Yeah, I should have brought you one.
You should have, but
I'll
I have to
drop
get.
one
Where
off.
can we get one?
Basler's.
Basler's, we can get Kevin's almanac.
Yep.
And it's going to give us all this. I got to take a look at that. We've got to check out the weather that's coming up here. What
Well,
else?
it's
is,
not as much.
Go ahead.
It's not as much about weather as it is interesting thing. Each day, it has the sunrise, the sunset, moon, sunrise, moon set, but then something about that day. And often I tried to make it so it was specific to our area. So, anyhow, like if you look at an almanac, it'll say what happened on that.
So we can
day.
see Kevin's almanac. You can pick it up at Basler's. Any place else?
That's it.
That's it. So stop into Basler's. Check out the hot bar. Get yourself a little one of those TV bars in there.
Yeah. Oh, I love those
recommend-
things. You're talking about the chocolate
Yeah,
thing?
those
But-
chocolate-
I
yeah,
love those.
check one of those out.
Oh, yeah.
Might want to get one of those and get a Kevin's Almanac. I recommend them highly, both those items. Might get a little chicken strip or two while you're in there, and you'll be set for the night. But we're just giving Bob a plug, and Casey, make sure they know that we're sending them as much business as we can. So tell us about what the future looks like for Kevin Orpert. We're looking at the crystal ball here.
Well, I'm going to continue to do weather as long as I can.
That's great.
I do have an end game in mind.
Is that right?
Yeah. I started doing nighttime weather in 1985, in November of 85. So if I make it to 2025, that would be 40 years.
Wow.
And that would be a nice way to just have this package, this sort of beginning and end. I don't know.
And you've worked with some great personalities over there at the station, and it always appears that you guys just have great rapport with
We
one another.
do.
Yeah.
I am so grateful for my my co-anchors. I love Patrice. She and I have worked together for since 20 some years ago.
Yeah, you guys got tremendous chemistry with one another, that's
Yeah.
for sure. So
Yeah.
I'm never sure if she's the straight person or you are when you're back and forth with your banter, but it's always, and I'm certain you don't rehearse it, it just comes naturally.
No.
So
It's
just,
always in great fun, although sometimes people will call, usually women who say to Patricia, you just stop picking on that Kevin.
well, good for them to defend
Yeah,
you, that's right.
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
she's a little rough sometimes with you, I think, too. I agree.
Yeah,
I
she
mean,
is.
she's got she should know better.
Sensitive.
Yeah, she should know better. Maybe we can get her involved in this backyard cookout,
No,
I mean,
yeah.
we can get her on the grill. She was talking about her cooking prowess, so
Yeah.
so we'll see about that. But
Okay.
again, you have obviously been a tremendous asset to the community, and
That's kind.
and
Thanks.
it's again, I'm sure that's something that you would do over and over again. So, what any final thoughts for our viewers that you'd like to share with them about yourself, or
Well, the one thing sure, I'll say.
yeah,
That this town, this community is for me is home. It really is, and I think we have a lot going for it, and it looks like there's a really great future. A lot of things going on in this town, in this area. Downtown is starting to come alive. I just think there's a great future for Terre Haute, and I'm glad to be here. I don't plan to go anywhere else.
I thought we were going to have a real big breaking news. I thought you were getting ready to announce for mayor or something, Kevin. When you
No, too many meetings.
Too many meetings.
Too many meetings.
I see.
Yeah.
I thought we were onto something here. In fact, there was. But then you stopped short of that. So
too many meetings.
But I should have known, smarter guy as you are, you wouldn't make that prediction. But no, I think you're right. And again, it really is great to have people that are, people that you can turn to, and I know that particularly, you come in at all hours of the night when there's severe weather, and that's got to be tough, does it not?
Yeah, it is. In fact, I went in Saturday night because it was storming and there was a tornado warning, and it's just part of the job. It really is. I kind of enjoy it. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Just don't cut into the Don't cut in over the soap operas.
Yes.
if there better be a tornado on Wabash Avenue.
Yeah, probably back in the day, like when Dallas was on, you better not interrupt Dallas or something.
No, not Dallas. We don't have the time. I could tell you a lot of stories about getting in trouble for cutting in, and oh my.
But in all seriousness, people really got to rely on you though in those times, and they're
We do
probably
our
calling
best.
you really distressed and calm everybody down and give people good advice. So again, it's really, I know it's your profession, but it's really a public service to people as well. And again, it's just great to have, somebody with your calm and your reason and knowledge. So and you make it fun too. So
Thanks.
we really appreciate you coming in this evening to
pleasure.
chat
Thanks
with
for
us,
having
and
me.
we hope to get you back again because it's been really a great experience and great to catch up with you, and glad that you're doing well. And you're a grandfather now.
I am.
So we might have another weather person in the coming up the pike. So
You never know.
You never know.
Okay.
Kevin, great to see you.
Thank you, Joe.
And thanks for joining us. And Kevin, before you leave, one other thing. What do we look for on Easter Sunday? What can we
It's
expect?
nice.
Nice.
Very
Okay.
nice.
So we might see a 6'3" Easter bunny out running around if we're going to be nice weather.
Yeah.
So
71 and sunny.
there you have
That'd
it.
be great.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
There you have it. Kevin Orpert, Hall of Famer. We appreciate him coming in. We're going to wait to check on that band. We get that band rolling. You're not going to believe the circus band and what we have. And again, the chat is rolling tonight. We've got the production team in line. We're not going to have any other production problems. And we've got this young lady. You thought we had stars tonight. They just keep rolling in. Look at this young lady. She needs no introduction either, but tell our viewers who you are.
I'm Becky Boozy. I'm retired.
Retired?
Yes,
Well,
I think. I'm not sure.
So Becky Boozy, everybody knows Becky. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Becky.
Well, I grew up in Jasper, or not in Jasper, in Huntingburg. And I'm so used to using Jasper because everybody will say, "Where's Huntingburg?"
No, we want to be very precise here. We're precise with our locations, mascots, etc. So
They were the Huntingburg Happy Hunters.
I like it. I like it. That may be one of the top 5 mascots. That's top
Right.
5. That absolutely.
And eventually Holland, Indiana, and Huntingburg merged, and they became the South Ridge Raiders. So
Okay.
I just put that on the table right away.
That's a great one. You might take over. We'll just have this chat with Becky. We won't even have to worry about chat with the chair.
But I grew up in southern Indiana, and because of Irvin's job, we ended up here in Terre Haute, I think like 35 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah, and we love it here. I agree with everything Kevin said. I think it's a wonderful community, and if you've ever had the opportunity to work on a board or something that's statewide, you realize just how wonderful Terre Haute is.
So you moved here when you were 5.
Not quite. I've been married 57 years.
Oh,
so-
well, okay, then I missed it by a couple of years.
Just a few
But
years.
I think it could it be longer than 35 years?
That
Is
I've been here?
Yes.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. Well, let's see. You know how I keep track of it? It was 10 years at Big Brother Big Sister, 10 years at the YW, and 10 years at Girl Scouts.
Well, you know, again, we're going to get into your distinguished career, of course. You know, actually, for all those great ventures you've been involved in, and great organizations, and the great things that you've done in the community, you know, you're really best known for your dancing. I mean, the truth is, I mean, people really know you for that. I mean, I don't know about this other
Really?
stuff, big boys. I mean, nothing. They don't. People. That's really pales in comparison to you as a dancer.
Oh, it was wonderful.
I mean, unbelievable. I mean, let's talk about that.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Well, tell our viewers what we're talking about here. I mean, I know they know about
Okay.
this, but I want you to boast a little bit because you're very. I've got all these modest people in here, except for me tonight, and so I got to draw it out of them. But let's talk about that.
Well, I participated in the Chances for Youth Dancing with the Stars, and it was so much fun. And it came off right after the air show. And I was the volunteer coordinator for the air show. So I was like, it was so peaceful for me to go to those dance classes and kind of brought me down off after all of that air show stuff. And I absolutely loved it. I loved it. It's too bad you can only do it once.
Well, tell our viewers what your dance was.
It was, I danced to Hallelujah, and it was a waltz. And when I went into Brandon, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to dance to Hallelujah. And he said, are you sure? And I said, that's what I want to dance to. And so we looked at different ways it was sang by different people, and we ended up with Bon Jovi, which was great. Hey.
People are still talking about that dance. I mean, I think you got a standing ovation that night. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was great.
It was unbelievable, that performance. And like I said, for all of the great things that you've done throughout your life, I mean, it's what you're known for. I mean, I hate to tell you that. I mean, it comes down to that. But so
Well, I'm glad you told me that.
Well, I mean, I had to tell you because you missed your calling. I mean, you know, you should be on, you know, out in New York, I think, on Broadway or someplace. It's just the way it is.
Okay.
So we got to go back now, but I had to get into that because that was what people talk about more than anything about you. But let's talk about all these other minor things that you were doing throughout your career.
Oh, well, to be honest, I got started by being a VISTA, which is like Volunteers in Service to America. And I worked out the Juvenile Center and did some programs out there. And it's kind of like the Peace Corps, except you're here. And so I absolutely loved that. But through that, when that grant was over, I got into Big Brother, Big Sister, and then went from Big Brother, Big Sister to the YWCA. But I've always said that my favorite job was being a VISTA.
Is that right?
Hmm. I could do anything I wanted as long as I did it with juveniles, because it was with the Indiana Juvenile Justice Task Force.
So what years were you associated with Vista?
Well, now you want me to know. Go back to
But that was
Go
for how many
back.
years?
just 2 years.
2 years.
It was 2 years. And I left a job that was secure and that paid better and was, only part-time to a job that paid a lot less. And I knew it was a 2-year contract. And I think I put in like 50 hours a week, but I loved it. I loved
great.
working with juveniles.
Yeah. And of course, then you went to Big Brother, Big Sister. And let's talk about those years.
Those were great too. And I've always thought Big Brother, Big Sister is a fence setter program because kids that have problems or have problems at home or don't have both parents, they kind of sit on a fence. And I have seen kids that I don't think would have finished high school who actually went on to college because of their big brother or big sister. So I always think of that as a fence setting, program, because you can fall this way or this way. And it seems like if they have a big brother or a big sister, they always seem to fall the right way.
Yeah. Well, we've had some of our other guests have come through that talked about that have been volunteers. What would you say to our viewers that are maybe themselves thinking about getting involved with that organization?
Well, I would tell them that they would get a lot more out of it than the littles.
Okay.
I honestly think they experience a whole different way of life. These kids, some of them have problems that you and I don't even think about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that they get a lot more out of it than what. A lot of our big brothers or big sisters will go to a second child after that one
Is that right?
turns 18. Or at least that was the way it was when I was doing it. So.
Now, when you were you oftentimes recruiting people to serve in those capacities as a big brother or a big
Yes.
sister? Were there certain traits that you would look for in particular, or would there be certain traits of people that might be out there watching? They go, "I wouldn't be a good brother or sister." What would you say to them?
I would say make sure you have time. I know it's not a lot of time that they ask for, but make sure you have some time to give them, because these kids have been disappointed all their lives, and they don't need a big brother or big sister to come into their life and then walk away from them.
Okay.
Or not show up, or not take time with them. So to me, that was what I looked for. Now, they go through a really extensive process where they do personal interviews and all of this kind of stuff. So you pretty well know the person by the time it happens.
Now, then you went on to the Girl Scouts.
No, YWCA.
Oh, YWCA.
Mhm.
Okay, and let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, I love that program too, and I like the programs that I brought into it. I brought into it like Working Women's Clothes Closet. I think one thing they had not done in the past was collaborate with other agencies. Now, Dorothy Juris did. Dorothy Juris was
Right.
Miss YWCA
Yes.
as far as I'm concerned. But just collaborating with other agencies and knowing that that's all right. And so did English as a second language. We had a fantastic preschool. There was always a huge waiting list for our
Is that right?
preschool. And our dance and gymnastics, we had, I can't remember exactly what they called it, a 10-day payment thing, where if you don't sign up, if you don't pay your dues this month by the 10th, you don't get next month. So, and people were always there in line to wait to see if anybody didn't sign up so they could get in. So we had waiting lists for that too. So had a great girls basketball
Yeah.
program, and at that time it was the only program that for girls at that time when we started. So
I get so sidetracked by your dancing career. Sometimes I get your other career
Yeah.
on the line here, but
Yeah, I understand.
you know how it is. I mean, when you're a star like this,
Yeah.
but
I totally understand.
But what about with the Y? Was that anything that you had experience with as a young lady yourself
No.
personally?
No. As a matter of fact, I didn't experience any of this as a.
Is
as
that
a-
right?
Right. I think I grew up wanting my life to be different than what I grew up as.
That's
And because I came from a pretty bad situation. So that was my goal, to be better than what I came from. And I think I've done that.
No, you absolutely have. Is that anything you want to share with our viewers? Anything about that or not?
Well, I grew up in an alcoholic, abusive kind of situation, and I would only say this to you, that my two brothers and I, by the time I was a senior, we dealt with the death of a mother through abuse. We dealt with going into foster homes. We dealt with being totally separated. And we've all turned out okay.
You absolutely have. Well, you sure have dedicated your life to helping other people. That's
Yeah.
tremendous that you've done that. So how many years then at the Y?
I was there 10.
Something about those 10 years. I mean, so we're gonna have you dancing for 10. I'm assuming. I get all you
No,
think
I
that.
don't
No.
think so.
And so from the Y, where did we go?
I went to Girl Scouts of Central Indiana.
Okay.
The first 2 years it was Covered Bridge, and then they merged with Indianapolis. And then I became their director of advocacy and community development. So I spent a lot of time at the State House and a lot of time working, like I worked on bullying laws, for example, and some things like that. And I have to say that it was just wonderful. I love being up at the State House, and I love all of that. But being able to monitor legislation for kids and that kind of thing was just absolutely right up my alley.
Now, was that part of your job description, or did you just make that part of your job?
No, it
'Cause
was
you
my,
really,
I was the first director of advocacy.
Okay.
But they pretty well, National had a job description and everything, but Debbie Smith, right, she said she was sitting in a meeting and they started talking about it, and she said, I can't afford to hire another person. And then all of a sudden she thought, well, I have somebody like that.
well, you sure embraced that role, and you were such a great advocate in that position, and I know that the many people over there at the legislature thought so highly of you and your advocacy, and you were definitely representing the interests of so many people, and again, that had to be really gratifying for you.
Well, I really enjoyed it and really got to know my way around the legislature and you know, who to talk to and who to stay away from.
Yeah. But you were definitely a great advocate, and like I said, you definitely knew your way. You know, with regard to that, I didn't know if you'd be able to share with us the thin mint recipe. Is that
No.
anything that no? Didn't know if we could maybe get that out of you.
No.
No?
You know, I personally put that recipe together.
Is that right?
I'm not giving
I
it
believe
to you.
it. I can believe that, but you know, you got to ask. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all I can say.
I've
But,
been asked before.
Have you? Probably by me, but
Probably.
now the other thing that many people know is your love for sports, and you've been a tremendous supporter of Indiana State athletics. I've seen you at a number of different events, and then it goes without saying that I don't think the Rex would be in existence without you and many others like you. But talk about that experience.
Well, I don't even know how many years I was the host homes coordinator for that, and that was really neat.
Yes.
Now, I did step down from that position because I had so many other things I wanted to do.
Imagine that.
But they're still going,
Yes.
and I'm going to be speaking on Channel 10 about the host homes
Okay,
program.
that's nice.
The gal that took it over doesn't want. No, she said no. I'm not going to be on TV. So. Anyway, one other little thing you may not know,
Okay.
since you like sports so well.
Absolutely.
Don Boozy is our cousin.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, so, and he grew up where?
He grew up in Holland, Indiana. All the Boozies grew up in
Okay.
Holland, Indiana. A few of us snuck away, but most of them are still there.
And what do we know generally the population of Holland at that time? What would have been the population you estimate?
I used to say it was 500 people, counting cats and dogs.
Well,
And the
there are probably 300 boozies there, probably.
well, probably.
I should have figured that out. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know how I didn't put that together.
Gene Tarmelon is the other person that's from there. So
Okay.
there's for a long, long time, that was the only two professional basketball players that came out of Du Bois County.
I should have put that together years ago. But
Right.
what other interesting tidbits could you share with our viewers this evening?
Huh?
Ran for Senate.
Oh yeah, I ran for Senate. He knows.
I know that detail. But talk about that, though, that experience.
To be honest, I thought they were crazy when they asked me. And then I went home and I asked my husband about it. I said, you won't believe what these crazy people asked me to do. And he said, you always said you wanted to run for an office.
Yes.
Why don't you do it? And I said, that wasn't exactly what I had in mind. But so I loved it. I loved that year.
Yes.
But I kind of, you probably won't want to hear this, but I kind of got the feeling that with the things that I'm interested in, I could do more on the outside than I could on the inside.
Well, I think as fate would have it, that turned out that way. I mean,
Right.
but the thing that separates you, of course, is that you just put your head down and went to work for people, and that's a great attribute to your character and your work and your husband and all the great things that you guys have done. So I tip my hat to you, and
Thank you.
and there's definitely members of this community that are indebted to you for that service, because like I said, you have definitely done some great things. So anything else you want to tell our viewers before we conclude here on another I do have one other topic I need to talk to you about real quickly, but go ahead. Anything else you got?
Well, I have I have 3 grandchildren.
Okay, let's talk about them real quickly.
Okay, well, Kelsey had graduated from Purdue, and
great.
she's in Seattle now,
Oh, wow.
working for Microsoft.
Awesome.
And our grandson graduated from IU, and he's at IU getting his law degree.
That is awesome.
So there, and the other one was adopted when he was 16, Josh was, and he's such a good kid, but has had some problems, and he is now working as a chef.
Is that right?
Yeah, and he's loving it. So they all 3 have found their spots.
Well, your grandson, the future lawyer, was at that dance scene.
Yes, and he was
he
so-
was keeping all the paparazzi away from you. He was doing
Yeah.
a great job. I mean, you had him coming out of the woodwork. I mean, I'm telling you, big deal, big deal. So, what do you think about the blazer? We got to get to that.
I
mean,
love that blazer.
You love it?
Yes,
Oh,
I would wear it.
You would?
Yeah.
We might have to get that. So Becky, this has been a delight to have you here. I truly enjoyed you being here, and then all our guests tonight. But we've had a great show, and we always like you to come back to the chat.
Okay.
I think it's gone pretty smoothly.
Right.
Our crew, my mascot hasn't interrupted you tonight, so only Kevin got the brunt of that. And God, he's a professional weatherman, or we've been in trouble. So, again, thanks for joining us. Happy Easter to everybody.
Yes.
We expect that good weather. Kevin Orpin's guaranteed it. So until our next chat with the chair,
So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere. Get ready for a chat with the chair.
That's
there we
great.
go.